What's up, guys? This is Coach Grant with First Down Training, and today we're going to be breaking down a great wide receiver football IQ quiz to test your knowledge of the position. So I hope this video helps you guys out. Hope it can teach you a few new things. But also, fellas, if you are a wide receiver and you want to know exactly what you should be doing this offseason in the gym and on the field to improve your game, check out that very first link in the description below for our ultimate 8-week wide receiver workout plan. What you'll get access to is over 500 plus wide receiver drills and gym exercises all mapped out for you guys with a daily schedule to follow with sets, reps, and an example of each exercise. So check out that very first link in the description below if you're interested in that, fellas. Let's get started with this video. So now, for how this quiz format video works is I'm going to show you guys a pre-snap look. I might be showing you guys a route, whatever it might be, and I'm going to ask you a series of questions on it, give you a chance to answer the questions. I'm going to say you can pause the video, think about your answer, and then we're going to break it down and why that answer is correct or why that answer might be wrong, okay? So, first example here is how would you guys run a whip route? So a whip route is where you go, like, it's pretty much where you break to the slant and then whip back out to the outside. How would you guys run a whip route versus this type of coverage, okay? So whip route versus this inside shade, maybe 2 to 3 yards off coverage. So you guys can go ahead and pause the video and think about how you would answer this. So go ahead and pause the video. All right, let's break this thing down. So when we have a DB who's lined up inside shade, remember, number one thing when I come up to the line every single time as a wide receiver is I need to have a good pre-snap process. I need to understand, okay, this DB is playing this way for a reason. He is playing inside shade to take away the inside. So I have to run an outside breaking route, but I have to sell like I'm going to the inside first on this whip route, right? So he's inside shade. Number one thing on any type of double move, whether it's an out and up, whether it's a slant and go, whether it's a whip route, we have to run the first part of the move exactly like how we would run it against this specific coverage. So that's the first part of this question. So a lot of guys would say, oh, well, you want to do like a diamond release. He's inside shade. You want to do a diamond release outside, maybe get him to open up, then slip under and whip out. And that would work if we were maybe on the 50-yard line, the 40-yard line, because a DB is more susceptible to getting beat on the fade. But when it's on the goal line, you running full speed at his outside shoulder and his outside hip is not going to do anything because he's not threatened by that. He is threatened by the goal line fade. He's threatened by you going to that back pylon. So that's what we want to try to make it look like. So let's watch what this wide receiver does here. He comes off the ball, hesitates at him, gives a crossover, and then runs the whip. That looks a lot like how you would run a goal line fade. On a goal line fade, you would hesitate, maybe give him a move inside, then go back to the outside. So that's what we want to make it look like. Let's hesitate, give him a fake in, fake out, then run the slant underneath. That's how you would run a slant route. Fellas, you want to make the slant look like the goal line fade. You want to make the whip look like the slant and the combination of the goal line fade. You have to make it all look the same. So first things first, we have to make my release look exactly like how I would run a slant. Now, when you break in front of him on this whip route, you want to make sure that we sell it, obviously. We're running hard, running full stride to get this guy to crash. If that's what you guys said, that would be correct. If you guys said, oh, you want to do like a diamond release or maybe you want to square him up, the square up might be fine, but that's just a little tricky sometimes because that DB could be right there when you run that slant. By square up, I mean you come off the ball and you square him up and then just break in front of him. That's a little tricky because when we square up the DB, he's going to keep that leverage. We're better off giving a little hezzy move, act like we're running this fade, threaten the outside shoulder, and then slip underneath. Because that's how you would run the slant versus this type of coverage. So let's play this thing again, full speed one more time. Great job of this wide receiver is acting like he's running the goal line fade to sell the slant and then getting separation on that whip. So I hope that made sense, fellas. I know that's a lot of information at you, but most important thing is that when you're going up against any type of coverage look and you have to run a double move, run the first move like how you would run it normally. Don't change things just because it's a double move. Okay, so now, next example here is how would you guys run a 12-yard dig route? So dig route or like an in route for some of you that aren't familiar with that terminology, not a post dig, more like a basic dig. How would you guys run that against this type of coverage, inside shade, press? Okay, so you guys go ahead and pause the video and think about your answers. Go ahead and pause the video. All right, let's break this thing down. So we have inside shade press coverage. Very similar to the last example. Just because he's lined up a little bit closer than the last DB doesn't mean that his leverage responsibility changes. So I come up to the line, automatically got to determine what's his leverage, how close or how far he is, and what type of coverage it is. So he's inside shade. He's pressed up maybe about a yard, maybe less and eyes are on me. So that tells me that it's man. Inside shade, press man. I have to run a dig. Now, if you said, oh, you want to try to give him a fake to the outside, maybe like a diamond release to the outside, get him to bail and take the inside release, that would be incorrect. Here's why. A disciplined DB, fellas, because I'm not trying to get you ready for a scrub. I'm trying to get you ready for a guy who actually knows what he's doing. A disciplined DB will not give up the inside. His sole purpose, remember, we said this. We come up to the line and we know this based on how he's lined up. He's not trying to give up the inside. His sole purpose in life in this specific scenario is to not give up the inside release. So if we try to force it by just giving a move outside, take the inside, he's just going to stay patient. And when he stays patient and keeps his leverage, he's going to force us inside. And yeah, we might run the dig. Yeah, we might get a step of separation. But you're all the way across the field. You're going to be running into other receivers running other routes. You're going to be running into maybe other defenders as well. So take what the DB gives you. So if you said you want to attack his leverage to the inside, then take the outside release and try to stack, that would be correct. Okay, so I'm going to play this full speed. Now, one more kind of trick question. I'm not going to pause the video or anything, but I want you guys to think about this. When you stack him, what do you want to do? Do you want to snap down at the break point, or do you want to give like a hard single cut or a rocker step at the break point? What do you guys think? You would want to do a single cut or a rocker step. Here's why. If you get to the top of the route and you have him stacked, and let's say he drops his hips, what's this DB going to do? He's probably going to run into him, right? So a dig route is one of those unique routes where you could snap down or you could use like a speed cut, rocker step, whatever. But if we got him stacked, we got to get out of this thing with some speed. And trust me, fellas, against man coverage, it's okay if you drift a little bit off of that like 12-yard marker. As long as you're in the general area and you get back to the yardage. So like maybe you drift up a yard, as long as when you're accelerating out, you get back to 12 so we don't screw up the quarterback too much. But trust me, the quarterback knows. The quarterback knows he's going to put it on you against man coverage. It's more of like a matchup thing. But that's how you would run that route. You have to take what the DB gives us. We do not want to screw up spacing on the play, and we do not want to screw up timing. Because if you're messing around trying to take this inside release and this DB's getting hands on us, especially if you're not maybe the biggest, most physical guy in the world and you have to deal with the DB who's physical, that timing is off. That DB is jamming you. He is doing his job, which is screwing up the timing and the spacing of the play. Take what he gives us and let's work to the outside. Now, everybody's biggest fear on this, fellas, is when they take that outside release. Well, coach, what if the DB is in front of me? What if I can't stack him? What do I do? You got to have a plan. And this is why I talk about this stuff over and over and over again on this channel, so you guys understand this, because I actually care that you guys get better. I actually want you guys to get better, and I'm a firm believer that you can get better from watching this just over and over again and beating it into your skull that this is how you run routes. And when that DB's hip to hip, let's have a plan. That's when we do snap down on a dig, because now he's running full speed. Hopefully we're selling fade. You put the brakes on. I use my inside hand and put it on the back of his shoulder, back of his hip, and I slip under him. Call it a throw-by move. Then, that way, I still kept spacing on the play. I have plenty of room to accelerate, and I kept timing with my quarterback. I didn't get jammed up. I'm not spending a bunch of time hand-fighting with the DB when I don't need to. You got to have a plan. Off the line, it's about being able to keep timing. Top of the route, that's where we get separation from either a restack like so or throwing him by. So if you guys said attack his leverage inside, take the outside release, work the stack, or throw by, that would be correct in this scenario. So let's play this again, full speed one more time. Great example from this wide receiver using that crossover move to attack leverage and winning on that dig. So next example, fellas. Pre-snap look, how would you guys run a 12-yard corner route versus this specific coverage? So a 12-yard corner versus this type of coverage. So you guys can go ahead and pause the video and think about your answers. Go ahead and pause the video. All right, let's break this thing down. So, well, obviously, same pre-snap process that we've talked about on all three of these looks. And the reason why I talk about a pre-snap process, fellas, is as receivers, we need to have that. Everybody talks about, quarterbacks, they're the only ones that need to read defenses. Receivers, they don't read defenses. They just go out there and run routes. At the next level, I'm going to tell you this right now. Do you want to play in college ball? You want to play in the NFL? You have to know how to read defenses. That's just a fact. You have to be able to do it. You got to know what your opponent is doing, and you got to know why your opponent is doing. And if you can start this now, because I'm assuming you are a lot of youth wide receivers, middle school wide receivers, high school wide receivers. If you can start understanding this stuff now, think about how much easier it's going to be when obviously we're in a real game and obviously when we get to the next level. So pre-snap process is what? He's probably about 4 yards off, and he's outside shade, eyes are on me. So that tells me that it's outside shade, 4 yards off, and it's man coverage. So why would he be outside shade? To prevent what? To prevent the outside route, and in a real game scenario, he has safety help. Okay, so he has a help guy to the inside, which is most likely a single high safety. So if this is the coverage that I have, and I have to run an outside breaking route, and he's outside leverage, if you said, oh, you want to try to square him up, step on his toes, give him a fake inside, and then release outside and stack, that would be wrong. Because remember, as soon as you start to close the space with him, he is going to keep his leverage because that's his responsibility. Don't get beat to the outside. Funnel him inside to your help. So when you close the space with him, my goal should be I want to attack him, widen him, and take what he gives me. So I give the quarterback space to throw me open. Anytime we have an outside breaking route, whether that is a comeback, whether that is an out route, whether that is a corner route, I need to give the quarterback space to lead me. If I don't give him space and that route turns into this type of break and there's a DB on my hip because I forced the outside release, that quarterback ain't throwing that because that's a pick six because you got to the window too fast, we don't have space, and the DB's right on your hip. He will never throw that. So let's watch what this wide receiver does. He attacks leverage, takes the inside release, and uses that rocker step at the top to win on that corner route, giving the quarterback a bunch of space to throw him open. We have to run the routes, fellas, like how they're drawn up on paper. Like, let's say this is a smash concept, for example. I hope everybody knows what a smash concept is. So like outside receivers running like a 5-yard hitch, slot receivers running a corner. When I have that smash concept, let's draw it over here. He's got the hitch. This guy's got the corner. It's not inside stem or outside stem, then run the corner. It's stem and then corner. It's a vertical stem, right? So that's what you have to do. You have to give that quarterback that space to throw you open. Take what the DB gives us. Okay, fellas? So let's watch this again, full speed one more time. Great job of this wide receiver attacking leverage and then trusting himself at the top of the route and giving that quarterback room to throw. All right, fellas, I really want to thank you for watching. I really appreciate it. If you guys have any questions at all, don't hesitate to leave those in the comment section below. Always appreciate the feedback. It's always great to hear from you guys. And again, fellas, if you would like to get an 8-week daily wide receiver gym and field workout schedule, everything you should be doing this offseason as a receiver, check out that very first link in the description below. We'd love to get you on that. I'll see you guys next time.